As I said this morning, my name is Deb Wolf, and for those of you that were in my previous session, the first couple minutes will be redundant, but that's fine. I am, most years, a chemistry and AP chemistry teacher in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This past year, I had the opportunity to facilitate a grant for training 40 middle school and high school math and science teachers in the use of 21st century tools, with the goal of having our students hit some of those, all of those 21st century skills of collaboration and communication and creative problem solving and innovation and all of those kinds of things. And I think that the flipped classroom really fits absolutely perfectly with the idea of having our students be 21st century learners, because if we're flipping our classroom and we're providing that direct instruction outside of the classroom, then we can do more powerful things with our class time. And as we are now learning from those that are somewhat against or violently against the flipped classroom, that's the piece that I think that they're missing, is the fact that what we're trying to focus on is what is best use of class time. And so what I'm going to talk about today is, first of all, why we would change up the how of our teaching, and then what are some tools that we can use to do this. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to read this. This is kind of interesting. This is part of a job description that was posted recently on one of those monster job search engines. So I want you to read this for a second, and while you're reading it, I want you to think about this. What kinds of skills would somebody who is interested in this job need to have? What kind of skills would that person need to have? And those of you that are on the webinar, you can join us when we start coming up with what are those skills. If you're like me, you have to read it 2 or 3 times before you even understand what it is. I don't know. She said, is incentivize even a word? All right, so help me out here. What kinds of skills would somebody who is interested in this job need to have?
Fluent in social media.
Very fluent in social media. What else?
Marketing, communication.
Marketing, communication.
Good in social situations.
Be good in social situations. Yes?
Ability to convey information in concise, interesting manner.
Ooh. So communicate both in digital form, use social networks to communicate. How about be creative?
Thorough understanding of copyright.
Okay, absolutely.
Multitask.
Being able to multitask. So lots of things here. Lots of things here. Communicate. Probably collaborate with others. Be innovative. Be a problem solver.
Doesn't need a lot of sleep.
So all kinds of skills. Did this job exist 10 years ago?
No.
Did this job exist 5 years ago?
Probably not.
No.
Probably not very many of them, if any. And as we've all heard, we are preparing our students for jobs that do not even exist today. And so I'm a chemistry teacher. I love chemistry. I'm passionate about chemistry. But I have to say that for me, teaching the content of chemistry is probably, oh, and it just pains me to say this, secondary to teaching my students to learn and to be creative and collaborate and communicate and be literate, etc. Okay? So my objectives for this session are to basically answer these questions. Why should we embed technology? And in fact, David Warlick, who is a big deal in ed tech, spoke last week, and he said, stop embedding technology into your classes. He's an ed tech guy, and he said that. What he meant was, and what he said shortly thereafter was, stop embedding technology for the sake of technology. It's not about cool tools, although engagement is important. It is about harnessing those tools to teach our students valuable skills. And then, obviously, what are some tools that we can use? And then, this is how I always end every session, how can we are at this conference, we are fortunate enough to be here, to be together with lots of really bright, creative, talented people. How can we take this back to our schools, our districts, and share the love? How do we spread the word? And we're going to probably stop with about 5 minutes left, and we're going to brainstorm how can we spread the love. All right. Schools continue to deliver new graduates into a workplace lacking the tech-based soft skills that businesses demand. Experts blame K-12 persistent failure to integrate technology. This came out from the Journal just in March. And here's why. I believe that by and large, educators use technology to do the same old things in the same old ways that we've always done it. We can just do it faster. My first year teaching, I had a Vimeo and a typewriter. It took me a significant period of time to make a worksheet. With technology, I can crank out worksheet after worksheet so fast, go out to the web, find some, grab some, copy, paste, bam, I got so many worksheets, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. When we see a new piece of technology, what goes on in our heads by and large is, how can I use that to do what I've always done, only maybe a little faster, maybe a little more efficiently? And I think we really need to start thinking differently about how we use technology. As a person who was born just early enough so that technology wasn't really a big deal when I was in school, we had old pet computers and they were monitors and yeah. I have always been a consumer of the web. I've gone out to Google, I've gotten stuff. Only very, very recently have I been a producer. Have I actually put stuff out there? And that's what our students already do and are good at doing and like to do and need to do. That's just more of the same. So why can we use these tools? Or why should we? Number one, they're free. There are so many web tools that are out there that are free to us as educators. For so long, I mean, I remember when the Laserdisc came out, and we had to buy these $1,000 players and these $100 laser discs. Technology it's in the clouds. It's free. Harness it. It's just ridiculous how much is available to us. As I already said, we're preparing our students for jobs that don't exist, and we have to focus on those 21st century skills. And lastly, and I think importantly, we know that student motivation is essential. We know that classroom management can be a struggle. And so let's meet our students where they are and use that engagement and use that motivation. And so what I'd like to do now, some of you may have seen this video, but I think it's powerful enough that I want to show it for you. So we're going to meet our students in their world and not in ours. So we're going to play a video. Hopefully. So do I do anything? Do I push play? It's about student voice and student choice. We've heard that, but what does that really mean? One of the things that Aaron and John talked about this morning was allowing students to show their understanding in a variety of different ways. And in just a second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to show you a whole host of resources that will allow you to give your students voice and choice in how they learn and how they show their understanding. I think that we don't use technology for a variety of reasons, and I think number one is fear. I have always been the expert in my classroom. Every time I used a piece of technology, every time I used a piece of propeware, I was always the one that knew how to do it better. I knew the chemistry, and I was sharing my knowledge with my students. We need to model what we want our students to do. Last week I was presenting, and I pulled up a whole bunch of mission statements from school districts across South Dakota, and at least half of them said, we want our students to be lifelong learners. And yet we say we don't have the time to learn tools. So we don't have the time to be lifelong learners. We don't have the time to try new things. We don't have the time to learn stuff, but we expect our students to be that. We need to start modeling that, and we also need to start modeling that we don't know everything, but that we can find it and that others can teach us. We can be lifelong learners within the confines of our own classroom. So you find a web tool that you think is kind of cool or that you've heard is kind of cool, learn a little bit about it, and then just throw it out there for your students to use if they choose. I'm going to skip this. But the bottom line in all of the next part of this, which is all these cool tools, is that it is not about the tool. It is still about your curriculum. It is still about what you want your students to be able to know and do, and it starts there. Start with the end in mind. What do you want your students to understand? And then find the ways that your students can have that voice and choice. Web 2.0 tools, web tools, and student creation. Just look at the top of Bloom's taxonomy, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. That's where we want our students to show their understanding, is at that level. And that's what these web tools are all about. Just another representation of all of the web tools and Bloom's hierarchy. All right, now to some cool tools. The first thing I want to do is I want to give you some resources, some places. Because this is not about me showing you how to use the tools. Because I'm modeling, giving you the tools and having you learn. Because YouTube is fabulous. Oh, I'd like to learn how to use Animoto. Animoto, YouTube, there it is. There's how you use it. Anybody know who Richard Byrne is? Okay. If there is one thing that you can that I leave you with today, it is this. Follow Richard Byrne's blog, Free Technology for Teachers, or Free Tech for Teachers. He posts multiple resources every single day. And what I like so much about his posts is that he says, and this might be how I would use it in education. Now, he's taken a week of vacation. But usually he has multiple posts a day. We're going to go there real quick and just see Richard Byrne's page. Free Technology for Teachers, Free Tech for Teachers. And so it's kind of a long page. Right now he's doing his best of the school year 2011. But today, Thursday, June 16th, he had this post about Study Boost and applications for education. And then some other things that you might like. This one was also today, quick list. I don't know anything about it. I could scan it, quickly read about it. If it's something I'm interested in, I can save it for later. Oftentimes he will give a link to a video of how to use it. Richard Burns, Free Tech for Teachers. You gotta follow it. You'll find so many cool things.
And that's, in my opinion, best set up as an RSS feed because it just comes to you every day.
Yes.
Almost like an email. So his webpage is really sometimes hard to read because it's very complex and it has a lot of things going on. But if you set it up as an RSS feed, it comes in very clean and it's a lot easier to read.
Right. If you don't have like an iGoogle account or a reader of some sort, that's something else. And find me when I'm not presenting. If you don't have that set up, I will help you set up an iGoogle account, an RSS feed, so that every time Richard posts something, it comes in. You don't have to go out and visit his website every day. Here's another one. This is a great example of crowdsourcing. This is interesting ways to. Now again, I think this is backwards because this is, here's some cool tools. What would you use them for? But let's say you just got an iPad or some iPads, or you want your students to present something. What Interesting Ways to does, it sets up a whole bunch of Google Docs that anybody can edit. And so Interesting Ways to, and let me scroll down, use Google Tools. And if I go to one of these links, like this one, this is going to be a Google Doc that's going to be all sorts of people posting how they use, in this case, Google Forms in their classrooms. And it's constantly updated, which is really nice. So again, another resource. We're just doing resources. Superbook of Web Tools. I really like this one because this is an actual ebook. They used Udo, which is an online publishing tool. You can have your students publish their own books if you'd like to. The Superbook of Web Tools, what's great about it is there's a section for elementary, middle, high school. There's a section for ELL, a section for special ed. If you teach an online course or alternative education, and then there's also sections on using Skype or how and why you would blog in an elementary classroom. By the way, just a side note, we have an elementary school in Sioux Falls. One elementary, we have 25 elementaries. One elementary school, our lowest income elementary school, every student got an iTouch to use in their classroom. Grades K through 5. We have first graders that are blogging. First graders that are blogging. And in my ignorance, I went and visited. I visited actually the 3rd grade class. And it happened to be, I think it was the Pearl Harbor Day. And so the teacher just said, what's important about this? And so the students went out using their iTouches, found information about what Pearl Harbor was, and then they were supposed to post that to their blog. And I said to the teacher, I said, doesn't it take them a long time to type on their iTouch? And he said, they don't know how to type on a computer either. It takes the same amount of time. Oh, sure, because I'm thinking, oh boy, it takes me a long time to do this. No, they can't do it either way. So they can slowly type, and they were blogging the most amazing things, starting in 1st grade. So Superbook of Web Tools, I'm not going to go there. It takes a little while to load, but like I said, this PowerPoint is on the Ning, so you can go there and look at it. It's really nice, and it's very, very well done. Teachers First. Okay. This is an overabundance of web tools. But I like it because it's searchable. And they just changed the format, the look of this. But basically what you can do is you can browse by subject or grade level. And so I'm going to click on that, browse by subject or grade level. And then let's say I'm going to browse by geography. So I teach geography, and it gives me a list of 390 geography type web tools. Are you kidding me? 390. I did chemistry. Even in chemistry, there were 100 and some. A few that I knew and liked. But again, what's really nice about this, it gives you a synopsis of what the tool is, how and why you might use it. So teachers first. We're almost done. Larry Ferlazzo, I don't know if he still does, but is an ELL teacher, and he writes a blog. And one section of his blogs are called My Best Of series. So if you go to his blog, if you're an ELL teacher, I would, again, follow this blog. My Best Of series is right here. Come on. Hang on one second. And these are his blog posts. The best in art, classroom practices, economics, ELL, games, health, holidays. I don't know about holidays, but listening, math. Apparently math is very important. Music. Wait till we get to social studies. If you're a social studies teacher, watch this. These are social studies. Yes. Yeah, it's too much, but it is pretty cool, etc. Cool tools for schools. I'm not going to go there, but what I like about this one, and I strongly encourage you to visit, it is categorized by the type of web tool. And the reason I like this is, let's say that you have something you want your students to produce. You want them to give a presentation. And so you can go to Cool Tools for Schools and look at all the different presentation type tools. Write your rubric of what you expect them to put in their presentation, and then let them use a Prezi, or Glogster, or Animoto, or a PowerPoint, for goodness sakes. Whatever tool they want to use. Let them have that voice and choice. I was in a classroom a couple of months ago of a very good friend of mine who's part of the grant. And she was having her students do presentations. And so she said, I'd really like you to come and see the presentations because I gave the students choice. I just told them you can use any of these different tools, and here are the things you need to include, so go. And so they made their presentations. And visually, most of them were really pretty good, but their presentations were ridiculously bad. Oh my goodness. And she came to me and she apologized. I'm so sorry. Oh, that was just awful. I can't believe you had to sit there for 50 minutes. And here's my response. That's why we have to do it more. If they're as bad, I mean, I would be the perfect example. I rarely had my students do presentations because it was just mind-numbingly painful to sit there while they did these presentations and read their PowerPoints. That's why they have to do them. We need them to have good communication skills, both digitally and orally, and we need them to do that. We need them to be producers. So, as painful as it is, we need them to do it. Thai is a South Dakota one, and if you want to visit it, I like it a lot. There's lots of them. The way they have their setup is for each of their tools, they do the big 5. What is the tool? How can I use it? How can I integrate it into my classroom? How do I get started using it? Where are some resources? Are there any tips or tricks that I need to know about this? And where can I get some more help if I get stuck? So that's another great resource. All right, now to some specifics. How many of you are familiar with Animoto? Okay. I see about a third of you have seen Animoto, but it's so powerful and so easy that I want to show you. Animoto is a web tool that allows students to upload images, video, text, and music to create a presentation. And it is literally upload the images, put them in the order that you want, add some text, pick a piece of music, and be done with it. And I like really simple tools for this reason. How many of you have taken your students to the computer lab to do a PowerPoint presentation and they spent the first 45 minutes picking the color and the font? It makes me crazy. Animoto, you have limited choices, which I think is the beauty of it, but it creates some really cool things. I want to show you just oh, this is video. Our webinar people are going to have to see this later. This is because it's a link within this site. I'm just going to show just a few seconds of it. So this student is doing a presentation about civil rights. Could the students write a paper? Sure they could. Could they do a PowerPoint? Sure they could. How much more powerful is this just because of the music? My brother and his wife had a baby in January. And of course, within a few days, they had taken a ton of pictures. In 15 minutes, I made an Animoto for them of the first week with their baby. And everybody was sobbing. Now, I'm like the least creative person on the planet. I have no talents artistically in the humanities at all. But with Animoto, some pictures, a few words, and a pretty well-chosen piece of music, I created something that made my entire family cry. And your students can do that. It's fabulous. All right.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
One thing I really like about Animoto, they have their own music in there that is copyright friendly that you can use, and it gives you a copyright warning every single time you want to upload music, because kids just use other people's copyrighted music all the time and then republish to the web. They're in violation, I mean, unless they really repurpose, which most of them don't.
Right.
And they think nothing of it.
Yes.
So if nothing else, that website is particularly mindful and is constantly reminding them of that, which I appreciate.
Thank you for saying that, because that is very true. And that's really the great thing about Animoto is they do have a wide selection of copyright-friendly music. And I have told my students, you're not even going to upload your own, just pick your own. There's plenty of music on there that you'll like. Okay? Answer Garden. How many of you are familiar with Answer Garden? Oh, yay, I picked one that nobody knows about. This is fabulous because it's so fast. Answer Garden, you go to the website, you type a question, and then you save it. It gives you a link. You can put it on your blog, your wiki, your website, whatever. And then your students can respond. You don't need to create an account. You don't need to do anything else. I mean, it's literally something as simple as, what's one question you still have from today? And the students can log on, and they can type their answer or their question or whatever, and it'll post to your website, your wiki, and it gives you an embed code, bam, you're done. It's that fast, it's that easy. So Answer Garden, quick, simple, easy tool. Glogster, how many of you are familiar with Glogster? Okay. How many of you have at some point in your teaching career asked your students to make a poster? Probably most of us. Glogster is an online poster tool. It allows the students to create a poster, but what's great about it is, again, for people like me who have no artistic talents at all, you can embed images, you can embed video, you can embed audio. There's one that our physics teacher had our students make, Newton's first law. And the kids were assigned law 1, 2, 3, whichever one. And then what they had to do is they used a flip cam to just videotape little 30-second clips of that law in action, and that was part of their poster when they were all done. So it was an interactive poster essentially. And so it still had, and it had links, etc. So it's much more, it's just much more than just a simple poster, and plus mine would have been really ugly if I had to use just paper, pencil, and some glitter. Google Search Story Creator. Who has seen this? This is my #1 absolute favorite. I don't even think I'll ever come up with a way to use it in chemistry, but if you teach English, literature, history, whatever, and you want your students to do maybe a book report, summarize a book that you've read, or summarize a time in history or something like this, Google Search Story Creator is the way to go. So we're going to go to it. It uses Google searches to create a story. Oh, and here's another one that's going to play just automatically. Now just watch this. Okay. I get goosebumps every time I watch that. I'm not kidding. I have goosebumps. All right. All you do is you are given maximum 7 searches. So imagine for a moment a book that you've read recently, a story you've seen recently, a time in history, and you creatively want to tell that story in 7 searches. You can do image searches, you can do map searches, you can just do a regular Google search, and then you pick the kind of music, again, and it creates the video for you. It's just magical. And it gives the students so much voice and so much creativity. And it's quick. It's not easy, but it's quick. I love Google Search Story Creator. And if you can think, any of you chemists, who's a chemistry teacher in here? All right, so you think about this. And when you come up with a great way to use Google Search Story Creator in your classroom, let me know.
What about a report on an element?
Yes?
I have my students at the beginning of the year do they make an element poster where they describe themselves in terms of physical and chemical properties.
Okay, describe themselves in physical and chemical properties. Maybe you could do something that way. History pin. I don't know how I got all these humanities things here, but whatever. History pin. Have you seen history pin? I'm so glad I put things that people hadn't seen before. History pin, its goal is to eventually be the largest repository of historical images and the stories that go with those images. So I want you to imagine for a second that you teach, let's say 7th grade, social studies. And you ask your students to interview their grandparents, their parents, I don't know, about some event in history. What if those grandparents had pictures? Now, what this does, it overlays Google Map and a timeline in history, and it gives them a place to tell the story. So you upload the image, you put the year that it occurred, and the location that the picture was taken. I recently was in Rapid City, South Dakota, and doing a presentation and used this. And in 1972, there was a massive flood in Rapid City that killed 300 and some people. And that's a perfect sort of local example. Ask your parents where they were in 1972. Find some pictures of the devastation and the destruction. Upload those. And then if you teach English, have the students write the little bit of story that goes with it. It's pretty cool. And then anybody can see those images and see the story that goes with it. And you can then also search. There's lots of pictures from Normandy. There's lots of pictures from the 1930s Dust Bowl South. There's lots of that kind of stuff that's already out there. But there's not a lot. This is relatively new. And so I think it's a great way to get people to tell their stories and have students write and produce. One word, I'm not going to go to this one. Again, this is really simple. If you teach it, literacy is super important, and I don't care what you teach. We all teach literacy. We all teach writing. If you have students that struggle with writer's block, you go to this website, every day there's a new word. It's just a word. You have 60 seconds and write about that word. That's all you get. You get one word. I was doing this presentation last week, and I clicked on it. The word was teacher. Now, I was a little concerned about if I had asked my students to write for 60 seconds on the word teacher, but I think it's great, especially from a middle school level, where you're having your students just start to write. Prezi. Probably lots of you are familiar with Prezi as a presentation tool. I'm just going to show you mine. It's just an alternative to PowerPoint. It is, again, nothing fancy. And I love Prezi because you're very limited on color and you're very limited on choice of font, etc. So this is a Prezi that I made, again, about web tools. And here's kind of what it looks like. So if I advance it, it would take me to links. As I'm advancing, there's that same video. Again, there's nothing fancy or new about this. It's just a different type of presentation tool. What's great about it is it's web-based. How many of you have this? Okay, you four, you're going to work on this presentation. Day 2. Bobby's not here, and he had it on his home folder, flash drive, whatever, so we don't have it. This is web-based. Why don't you guys, you're not quite done, why don't you work on it at home? Well, but only Bobby has it on his flash drive. Okay, it's web-based, and everybody can work on it. So that's what I like about Prezi. Nothing magical or fancy about it. Where am I at on time?
20 minutes.
I still have 20. It's 22 after, and we go till 40? Okay. Sumo Paint. Sumo Paint, think Photoshop. Only free and web-based. You can upload an image and edit it, or you can just start drawing. I just can't believe this, because this is not the world that I lived in. I mean, this is free. And you can upload images, you can edit those images, you can start from scratch. You have all those different kinds of tools, again, allowing your students to be very, very creative. I have students that I have never reached because I'm so this way and I don't think this way. That's how they think. And for them to be able to create using something like Sumo Paint, and then you can save it as a JPEG and put it into a presentation, or email it to me, or whatever you want to do with it. Yeah, I'm not saving that image. Oh. Zimmertwins. Okay, let me be honest. I put this in here because it's a Z. Because
There you go.
Zimmertwins is for elementary. But Zimmertwins is cool because what it does is there are 3 characters. There's Edgar and his sister Eva and their cat 13. And there are all these cartoons that are story starters. So it's a cartoon that starts and plays for about 15 to 30 seconds, and then something crazy is about to happen and it stops. At that point, the students could continue the cartoon themselves, because there are pictures that they can bring in of Edgar and Eva and add and call outs and things like that. Or why not just have them write? And have them write what's the rest of the story. It's pretty elementary, but there are things out there like this at the next level up. That's the last one. That's actually, let me be honest. Then there's like all these, but we're not going to go to all of those. I'm going to stop here. And here's why I'm going to stop. Number one, I want to give us time to ask and answer questions and have a conversation. And number two, I really want us to take a few minutes and say, okay, now I've got some resources, or at least I know where to go to get some resources. How do I maybe start thinking about how I might use this in my classroom, or how might I share this with others that would be willing to use this? And how do we train the people in our district that are fearful of this? How do we move people towards the 21st century? So, question number one, what questions or comments do you have at this point? Sir?
In terms of like security of images of children and that kind of thing, I mean, is there a big deal with that with your school district in terms of
with our
control that?
Yeah, with our school district, and I know everybody is kind of different. At the beginning of the school year every year, our students have an information thing that goes home. And part of that is a signature by the parents that says that the student images can be used for different things. It's okay. And if the parents choose not to sign that, that's perfectly fine. And all of our teachers are notified that their students' images cannot appear anywhere on the web. And so then those students need other resources. So then you do a Prezi without a picture. Yeah. Or whatever. Sir?
You had a powerful slide at the very beginning of the presentation. I think it was like maybe slide 4 or something, I don't remember. But you had all these like 21st century skills or whatever that businesses are like.
Are you talking about the job description?
I don't know. It was like,
okay.
I don't remember exactly what slide, but it seemed like you had a whole bunch of 21st century skills that I guess employers are looking for. Or
yep.
Whatever. But, like, that's, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if this is just a dilemma. That it seems like, you know, that some teachers maybe aren't concerned so much with that, and they're more concerned with CSAP and content. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And, you know, maybe a business doesn't care if you know the difference between whatever, an isosceles triangle or whatever, or some equilateral, but they want you to be able to communicate and to collaborate with your peers or whatever. So I don't know, it just seems like it's kind of a big disconnect with what business wants and then what teachers are pressured. I mean, because I know teachers in some districts is all, man, CSAP or, you know.
We have, of course, we have our state assessment. We also have, at the high school level, district semester tests. And my chemistry district semester test is compared to, my average is compared to every other chemistry teacher in the district. It's the same test. And it's very, for us personally, it's a big deal. The reason I'm doing this presentation at this conference is because I believe to the bottom of my heart and soul that with the flipped classroom, with getting some of that content delivery out of the classroom and as homework, we may have time for things that I always said in the past, I don't have time to do that. That as painful as it is for me to say it, I do believe my chemistry content is secondary to having my students be learners and having my students be able to communicate effectively, to be literate people. And literacy, that digital literacy, it doesn't have to be writing a paper. That digital literacy will help them on their, I mean, we know that the single biggest reason that students are unsuccessful on standardized tests is because of their reading ability. So if we can have them be readers and writers, we're going to improve those scores.
So that kind of leads to my question then. So what's, you have preference to one to the other, the 21st century skills?
I don't believe I do. I believe I do both of them as effectively as I possibly can. It's a balance. It's a balance. And it's a tough balance when your content is absolutely packed to the brim. Online question? Mm-hmm.
I am a technology instructional facilitator. How do you suggest to get teachers who are set in their ways to just try and use new products? That is my biggest challenge.
Mine too. My job this year was to train teachers